How's it going, everybody? We have the full release of the Through the Omenpaths set today, which is the Spider-Man set if you're not playing on Arena or MTGO. I'm going to do what I normally do, which is a pack opening and more or less a set review for the set now that it's officially out. I did manage to get quite a few packs this time. I've got more than 50, so I'm going to go ahead and just get straight into opening them, try and go as quick as possible, and look over the cards. I can tell you, my personal preference out of these new cards are mostly going to be the Mayhem cards. I've even gone ahead and gotten some of the commons and uncommons just so that I could help my vault progress a little bit faster. But yeah, let's go ahead and get into opening some of these packs. Alright. Definitely had a lot to go through there. We've got 10 packs open on this first bunch. You can see some of the Mayhem cards back there didn't all show new, but anyway, we've got some of the new dual lands. There's Surveil lands, which isn't terrible, I guess. They're not as good as this, the rare Surveil lands that already exist because you have to pay to do it. But if you just need a color that enters tapped, I guess that's good enough. I'm not a big fan of them, though. We've got Pinnacle Research Team, 4-drop Human Scientist, 1/5. You can pay 7 to draw cards. I don't think that's very good. We've got Chiswick, Apex Arcanosaur. It's a 6 cost 6/6 with Reach, Trample, and Ward 2. I don't love it just because it's so expensive, but it does have a big body and abilities. Probably pretty decent in draft early on with what we're seeing, just because when you get late game in draft, you actually usually have that mana to spare and want big things to help you finish out. So this might be usable in that. Lively Leap, a 1-drop instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. If it's a spider, you gain 2 life. I don't think that's terrible. I don't know what I would use it in. There's potential, I guess, in like a mono white deck or white weenies deck, something along those lines for a combat trick. I don't personally like combat tricks all that much because they require you to have a creature on board, and sometimes they're just dead in hand because of that. We've got Mob Lookout. It is a 1 black or blue and 1 mana cost, so Dimir colors, but could be in a mono black deck, mono blue deck considered also. It is a 0/3 human rogue villain. When this creature enters, target creature you control connives, which conniving, it says on the right there, but essentially you draw a card, discard a card, and put 1/1 counter on it if it's not a land. If I'm remembering right, yeah, non-land card, put a 1/1 counter. We've got Crime Scene Instructor, 2-drop 1/1. This creature enters with a 1/1 counter on it. When this creature leaves the battlefield, put its 1/1 counter on target creature you control. So that's not terrible, actually. It is a 2-drop 2/2 basically, and it gets to move its 1/1 counter to somebody else when it dies. So I don't hate that. If you're playing a counter, or like a 1/1 counter deck, something that likes, for example, Ouroboros or something along those lines, then this could be potentially pretty useful if you're in white. We've got Kefon Rage Incubator is a 5-drop 5/4 with Menace. You can pay 2, discard this card until end of turn. Target creature you control gets +3/+1 and becomes a dinosaur in addition to its other types. So if you're playing dinosaurs, this might fit in there somewhere. I don't really think that it would. It's more of a combat trick than a creature spell, but it could be potentially used in a form of reanimator deck for that reason, because you could get value out of it for the discard and then get it back onto the battlefield for cheaper. Got Grow Extra Arms, 2-drop instant. This spell costs 1 less to cast if it targets a spider, so it could be a 1-drop. Target creature gets +4/+4 until end of turn, which is pretty good, actually. Especially for like a Gruul spider deck or something along those lines. I think this has a lot of use there. Gruul does like combat tricks to try and push through that damage really quickly, and there are a lot of spiders in the new set, so pretty usable, especially in draft. We've got Data Scrubber, 3-drop 2/1 human robot villain. When this creature enters, exile up to 1 target card from a graveyard. Target creature you control connives. Not terrible. I don't love it as a 3-drop 2/1 creature, but the discard draw stuff is very nice with the new Mayhem mechanic, which I personally like. And then we've got Sadistic String Puller, a 4-drop 4/3 with Mayhem for 2. I don't know that it's one of your best Mayhem options, but it is worth considering using because a 2-drop 4/3 isn't terrible. And it is a spider, so it could potentially go really well with other spider creatures that are out right now. And Rakdos Mayhem is something I'm probably going to be making really early on. This could probably fit in it pretty easily. Drix Interceptions, a 3-drop, choose one or both, counter target spell, or tap 1 or 2 target creatures. I think that's actually pretty good. It's a 3-drop, which isn't outrageous for a counter spell. And you could choose to do both, so you can tap down multiple creatures of your opponents and counter a spell on a turn. So it has some added value there for 3 mana. That's pretty nice. Damning Caress is a 5-drop sorcery. This spell costs 2 less to cast. If you control a villain and destroy target creature, you gain 2 life. I don't think that's horrible. It's still, what, like a 3-drop with the discount, so that's not the best. I don't know that I would use this, but for 3 mana, it's better than using, like, a murder or something. Unfortunately, it is a sorcery, which kind of sucks. Eerie Gravestone, 2-drop. When this artifact enters, draw a card. Pay 2, sacrifice this artifact, mill 4 cards. You may put a creature card from among them into your hand. Mana costs are all cheap on this, so it's not terrible. If you're doing some kind of, like, a black-green mill effect, like a Golgari self-mill or something like that, or even Dimir possibly, then you could get some pretty good value out of this for cheap, so I don't hate it. Spectacular Tactics, 2-drop instant, choose one, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It gains hexproof until end of turn, so it's a protection spell, it's pretty nice. Or destroy target creature with power 4 or greater. I don't hate this. As a 2-drop, it's got a lot of value to it. It is a protect your creature or destroy their creature kind of spell. It doesn't hit everything, but with something with power 4 or greater is going to be one of your bigger threats, so it's probably pretty decent actually. Temple Trap is a 5-drop, it looks like. When this artifact enters, it deals 5 damage to target creature. Pay 2, discard this card, destroy target artifact. I think you're going to be better off just using an Abrade still with this. You could either deal 3 damage to target creature or destroy an artifact with that, and it has a lower mana cost, so I don't think this is going to be very useful, except for maybe in draft. We've got Zane Tunnelweb Explorers, a 4/3 for 5, or an in-web cost for 3, which makes it much better. When Zane enters, search your library for a basic land card, put it into the battlefield tapped, then shuffle. May end up being somehow useful in a landfall deck. I think mono-green landfall's a little too quick to slot this in, but could be useful in potentially like a Golgari or Jund landfall deck, I think. So not the worst there. We've got Treat Trolleys, 3-drop artifact. When this artifact enters, create a food token, and it can be tapped for 1 mana of any color, so it is mana ramp, and it gives you a food token. Potentially, if you have some kind of food token synergy, this could be good, but otherwise I don't think it's great. I would rather use... with all the spiders in the set, it's going to be really good to use the artifact that you can like pay 3, tap it for any color, and it buffs all of your creatures of a certain type. Because you could go villains, you could go heroes, you could go spiders. I think that one's going to be really helpful. I think it's called Patchwork Banner. Yeah, that's going to be way better than the Treat Trolley. We've got Scorpion Sting, 2-drop target creature gets -3/-3 until end of turn. As a 2-drop, it's pretty acceptable for -3/-3, and it's an instant speed card, so I think it's better than a lot of our other options, though you're probably better off just running Nowhere to Run, because same mana cost, same effect, and it stays on the board and creates for you the ability to target things that have hexproof for a reward, so probably still better off using Nowhere to Run over Scorpion Sting, though definitely going to be very usable in draft if you're playing like Premier Draft Through the Omenpaths. We've got another one of those string pullers. We've got Death Flame Burst. It doesn't say new because I already have a play set of this, because it's I knew I would probably be using it in my Mayhem deck somewhere, so I went ahead and crafted them. Death Flame Burst deals 4 damage to target creature for 3, which is pretty decent on its own, and if you manage to discard it, you can use Mayhem for 2 mana. 2 mana, 4 damage is pretty great. Let's see here. Another Drix Interception. Perilous Lunge. It's 3-drop sorcery combat trick. Put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control. It fights target creature an opponent controls. So if you like fight spells, this could slot in, though I think there are probably better ones. Let's see what else we got. Galvanized Workforce, 2-drop 2/2, Human Citizen with Trample. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent. You can pay 6 to put 2 1/1 counters on this creature, activate only as a sorcery. This could very easily slot into a deck in much the same way that something like Up the Beanstalk would. So you put this creature in for 2 mana, then you can use the Impend for Overlords. You could probably use the Web for a lot of these new Spider cards. You could get that 4 mana value for a discount. I think Mayhem probably also works with this. I don't know those for a fact, but in practice I think that's probably how it would work, so not terrible. I don't think the putting 2 1/1 counters on this creature is going to be entirely relevant. Even in draft, a 6 cost is pretty costly, but it's not the worst in the world, so I think this could probably be used most likely in a deck like what I had mentioned. So it could be potentially really good in maybe a Una deck of some kind too. We've got Wonderweave Aerialist, is a 2-drop in Azorius color, so white or blue. It is a Spider Human Hero 2/2 with Ward 2. This creature has flying as long as it is modified, meaning if it has any 1/1 counters on it, if its power or toughness is greater than what it entered with. So you could put equipments on it, auras on it, anything like that to make it be modified, and then it would be a flying 2/2 with Ward 2 for 2 mana, which is pretty good actually. More Grow Extra Arms. Common Crook, 2-drop 2/2 Human Rogue Villain. When this creature dies, create a treasure token. I would say this is almost like a new, what's his name? The little 1/1 that when it dies, you get to surveil and create a treasure. He's still in standard though, so I mean, you could use both, and it is a rogue, so this does have outlaw synergy, so maybe something there could work out. I don't really know. I don't think I'll be using it for anything, but there's potential there for it to be a usable card. We have Knife Trick. This is another Mayhem card that I actually like quite a bit. It is a 1-drop in black or red. I do already have it, as you can see. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you either discard a card or pay 2 mana, and Knife Trick deals 3 damage to target creature. 3 damage for 1 mana is pretty fantastic. 3 damage for 3 mana isn't the best, but it playing into Mayhem is really nice. If you really need the removal, you could potentially put this with like Bitter Triumph, things like that, to get that discount really nicely. So I think Knife Trick's pretty good actually. Especially too, since it's a discard enabler, not necessarily something that you have to discard to get payout out of it. I should say that, because this is something that can give you the opportunity to discard a card and then, you know, play the Mayhem cost of that card and get to kill something on the same turn where you're only spending 1 mana to do this. I think it's pretty good. We've got the Kaldaya Brawlers, is a 4-drop 3/4, discard a card. This creature gets +1/+0 and gains Menace until end of turn. You only activate this ability as a sorcery. I don't think a 4-drop 3/4 is the greatest. I think the discard a card ability of this is something that could be replicated across multiple turns, which is pretty good. And you could use it to discard multiple cards in 1 turn if you needed to do so. Having to do this only as a sorcery I don't think is a huge problem, but the +1/+0 until end of turn isn't the greatest. The fact that it gets Menace actually is pretty good though, so this could be used in a Mayhem deck of some sort and not be absolutely terrible. I would say if you're doing a Mayhem draft, this is pretty good. So, something to consider there. We've got City Pigeon, 1-drop, 1/1 bird. It has flying, and when this creature leaves the battlefield, you get a food token. Not the worst. If you're doing some kind of like a Bant Birds list or something like that, this could probably fit in there pretty easily. Phantasmal Vision is a 2-drop illusion villain for one. It's a 1/3 with flying and vigilance, and whenever this creature attacks, mill a card. So you're milling yourself with this. This would probably go in some kind of a Dimir self-mill deck if I had to guess. A 1/3 isn't the greatest, but it's a pretty decent blocker for 2 with 3 toughness. And since it has flying and vigilance, you're pretty easily able to ping in for 1 damage repeatedly with it, so I don't think this is terrible by any means. We've got Carriage of Dreams, 3-drop, 4/3 vehicle. When this vehicle attacks, you may pay blue. If you do, another target attacking creature can't be blocked this turn, and it has a crew cost of 2. I don't like vehicles personally very much, but if you're going to use one, having the ability to give another one of your creatures unblockable is pretty good. As a 4/3, I think it gets blocked very easily and would probably die. It doesn't have any kind of evasion on itself. And it says pay blue to make another target attacking creature unable to be blocked, so it can't target itself. Yeah, don't love it. We've got Wardens of Silverweb Summit. It is a 3-drop 2/3 with reach. Whenever it becomes tapped, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. So it's kind of like a connive ability, but you don't get 1/1 counters on it. As a 3-drop 2/3, it's not the best stats. It does have reach, which isn't the worst. But if you really need a discard enabler, I guess this is something there for you. I think you would be much, much better off playing a Tursa or something along those lines, though. We do have Wekdu. Midnight Hunter is a 3-drop 2/2 with flash and flying and mayhem for 1. So if you have an instant speed way of discarding a card, say for example a Bitter Triumph, then you can still use flash on this creature to get the mayhem cost out on your opponent's turn, which could be a really nice ambush, or potentially a way to get some value against some type of a control deck. Say they wiped your board or did something to blow up your stuff specifically. You can use Bitter Triumph, blow up a creature of theirs, then discard this, then pay the 1 and get it out on the battlefield. So pretty useful. The one downside I see to this is it is a legendary creature, meaning you can only have 1 on the battlefield at a time. Excuse me, losing my voice a little bit. I have to take a drink here in a second. But it has flying, so you're likely able to get in and deal damage with it as a 1-cost creature more often than not. It's pretty good. I'm going to take that drink real quick, then continue on here. Okay, now we have Clandestine Work. It is a 3-drop sorcery, surveil 2, then draw 2 cards, then lose 2 life. These kinds of cards come out very often. I don't personally use them very often because they do hurt you, but the ability to surveil 2 and draw 2 cards is very valuable, especially in a draft setting, so if you're playing black, this could be useful. Anything else new here? Merciless Enforcers is a 2-drop human mercenary villain with lifelink. It is a 2/1, and this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent for 4 mana. That 1 damage to each opponent for 4 mana would gain the lifelink effect, but it is only a ping for 1, so it's not the greatest thing in the world. Could be useful if you're just stuck sitting with nothing but mana in a draft setting, but I don't think it's a great card. If you just want 2-drop creatures to fill out your curve, though, it is kind of helpful for that, especially in draft. Full Throttle Fanatic, 2-drop 3/1. You can pay 1 and tap target creature gains haste until end of turn. I mean, that could potentially be useful, but I don't think it's a really good sell for this creature. You've got a 3/1, so if you attack with it, it's pretty much guaranteed to die. Yeah, I don't think it's fantastic by any means, but maybe somehow usable, I don't know. Cruel Caracals, 2-drop 2/2, pay 3, this creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, activate only once each turn. Could potentially be used in a cat deck or a villain deck, but I don't think it's the best thing. I think it would be probably better in a villain deck as just like a 2-drop 2/2 to round out your curve. Probably not going to end up using the ability very often with this card. We've got Vibrant Cityscape in one of the new lands. Sacrifice this land, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle. So essentially an Evolving Wilds variant. If you already use Evolving Wilds, you could replace it with this if you wanted just for a new card. But functionally, it's exactly the same. Romantic Rendezvous, 2-drop sorcery, discard a card, draw 2 cards. Not too bad. Not quite as good as like a Faithless Looting because it has the flashback cost, but still similar, and being able to discard is pretty helpful with the current Mayhem mechanic, so this could absolutely be used as a budget option or something along those lines if you don't have older cards like, for example, Tursa or Fear of Missing Out, things like those that are probably going to be used in that deck pretty frequently. Another Mob Lookout, we got another Kefon. What else we got here? Carlos Suave Schemer, 3-drop into Mirror Colors, 2/3. Menace when another villain you control enters. Carlo Connives. Not the worst for an uncommon. It is a 3-drop 2/3. I would prefer it if it was like a 3/3 or something like that for 3 mana, but it is an uncommon. It does have Menace, which isn't the worst, and it connives anytime you play a villain, so if you're playing a villain deck, this is probably pretty usable. We've got Miasmic Mist, a 3-drop sorcery that has a Mayhem function to it. Mayhem is actually more expensive on it rather than cheaper, but if you play it out normally, all creatures get -2/-2 until end of turn. If you do it for Mayhem rather than playing this card normally, then only your opponent's creatures get -2/-2. So as a board wipe, I could see this being really good. I think the I don't know if it's -2/-2 or -1/-1 and everything gets exiled card is still in standard. I'm pretty sure it is, so you could probably use that instead of this if you wanted. But there's some potential here with this, with it having Mayhem. It's just a more expensive Mayhem cost, which makes it kind of less useful. Let's see here. We've got Crash Reckless Endrider, 3-drop Rakdos colors, but it could be black or red. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may discard a card. When you do, target creature can't block this turn. Whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, Crash deals 1 damage to that player. Honestly, not terrible. As a 3-drop 2/3, I don't love it. It is still a villain card, though, so if you're playing a villain deck, this could easily fit in there, especially if you're doing some form of Mayhem effects, which is going to be pretty popular in Rakdos colors. The killing a creature and pinging your opponent for 1 is actually pretty nice, but it doesn't have any evasion on this creature. It doesn't have menace or anything like that. So as far as purely attack damage, you're probably not going to be getting in with it very often. But still not terrible, especially if you, for example, paired it with this Miasmic Mist card, could get something done there. So interesting. We've got Zora Spider Fancier as a 1-drop 0/2. Whenever another creature you control enters, you gain 1 life, and if it's a spider, put a 1/1 counter on it. Not the worst. A 0/2 for 1 mana, it's not going to be attacking in for you, but it does have the potential for growing any of your spider creatures that enter. You can get this out on turn 1 and then start going crazy with spiders. So pretty interesting there, and has life gain potential for you, because whether it's a spider or not, you are going to gain 1 life. So pretty usable in a life gain deck. Just as good, if not better, than a the hare, the little rabbit that's a 1/2. So not terrible. We've got Arger Tidal Spinner, 3-drop 2/2. When Arger enters, return up to 1 target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. So it's a bounce effect attached to a creature. It is a spider, so if you're trying to do spider stuff, you could get spider synergy with it. Same thing with hero or avatar. All of the overlords are avatars, so if you're playing Cavern of Souls with this creature and, say, for example, any of the overlords, then you could get benefit that way. Maybe that's useful. I don't think it's super great, but could see play in that way somehow. We've got Selesnya Archivist, is a 4-drop 3/3. When this creature enters, choose 1, return target card with mana value 4 or greater from your graveyard to your hand, or exile target artifact or enchantment. This could be used as a sideboard card for if you're dealing with artifacts or enchantments, but overall I think it's too expensive and you probably have better options elsewhere. We've got Carlos again, another Spider Fancier. What do we got here? Gororel's Scourge of Spiders. A 2-drop, 2/1. Whenever Gororel enters, or no, whenever it deals damage to a spider, it destroys it. So it has Death Touch for spider creatures, and if you pay 6 and exile this card from your graveyard, you get to create 2 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature tokens with flying, which are there on the right. Interesting, odd, but I mean, spiders are going to be pretty relevant in this next bit. I think you'd be better off just using a 1-drop Death Touch creature because it hits things that aren't spiders as well, but you never know. We've got Scorvus Ames, Crime Lord, 4-drop 3/3. This one is a Scorpion human villain. Death Touch. At the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, target creature you control connives. Honestly, I actually see this one as being potentially really useful in that kind of villain deck. It is a 4-drop 3/3, which isn't the best thing in the world, but it has Death Touch, which is effective on its own because it's already deterring blockers and things like that. But then it also has that whenever a creature dies on that turn, you get to make target creature connive, which is pretty nice because it can grow your other creatures. So there's potential for this one. I don't hate this one. We've got New Ensuma Career Criminals. It is Rakdos colors, so black-red for 5 mana. It is a 3/3 Goblin Human Villain, so another card potentially usable in a villain deck. It has Flying, Death Touch. Whenever New Ensuma attacks, discard a card, then draw a card for each card you've discarded this turn, which is actually pretty nice. It's very expensive mana cost-wise, but this could fit into if you're trying to do villains as well as Mayhem in a deck. Rakdos especially, like you're playing a Rakdos deck and you're just wanting value out of both abilities or both types of things. Then this could go in there as a discard enabler for you at least, and it can draw you even more cards. If you, for example, got to play like a Fear of Missing Out or a Tursa first and then this, you get to draw like 3 cards or 2 cards. So, I don't know. It's very expensive, which makes me not like it particularly, but there is some potential for it. Diligent Webkeepers is a 5-drop 4/3. When this creature enters, put a 1/1 counter on each other creature you control. It is a way to pump the rest of your board. It is a spider, but I think it's too expensive to really be seeing play unless you're doing like spiders in a draft or something, but even then I still think it's probably not your best bet. We've got Janai and Hoppy, Roof Skippers. It is a 1 green, 1 white, so Selesnya colors, and it is a 2/2 creature. During your turn, Janai and Hoppy has flying, and when Janai and Hoppy leaves the battlefield, create a 1/1 green and white human citizen creature token. The token on death isn't entirely relevant. I don't think it's not fantastic, but the fact that it is a creature that creates something when it dies could be potentially just a chump blocker for you, or if you're playing a token deck, there may be some value there. It is a spider human hero, so it synergizes with any of those types of things that you're trying to do. I think the fact that this is just a 2-cost 2/2 creature at base means it's good enough to probably see play. So, not terrible. Actually, pretty good one. Fearsome Ridgeline. It is able to be tapped for a colorless mana, or you can pay 1 to create a mana of any color, or you can pay 1 to make target legendary creature gain menace until end of turn. I don't think this is really going to see play, but maybe if you're in draft, this isn't terrible. There are a lot of legendaries in this set, so you could get that menace to help you get damage through. So maybe some value there. Sudden Strike is a 2-mana instant, destroy target attacking or blocking creature. I think that's pretty good. It doesn't have deal 3 damage, deal 2 damage, that sort of thing attached to it, so you get to just kill something outright. It does have to be attacking or blocking, but at least it gets it out of your way. And if it's blocking something that you're attacking with trample or something like that, you still get the damage through, so I think this is probably fairly usable. Rhino Rampage is a 1 green or red in Gruul colors, so this is actually pretty good. At least as far as the mana color is concerned. We've got We've got target creature you control gets +1/+0 until end of turn. It fights target creature an opponent controls, and when excess damage is dealt to the creature an opponent controls this way, destroy up to 1 target non-creature artifact with mana value 3 or less. That's really a lot. As a 1-drop fight spell, it's pretty good, and it improves your creature's damage by 1 at that, so could potentially kill something that you wouldn't normally be able to. I don't think the excess damage ability is going to trigger all the time, but the fact that it can means that you're going to get a little extra value out of it sometimes. So I actually think this is a really good fight spell that you might see people using quite a bit. And then we finally are getting into rares here. We've got the Scouring Storm Soul. If I'm not mistaken, this is Sandman. It's a 3-drop. The Scouring Storm Soul's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and the Scouring Storm Soul can't be blocked by creatures with power 2 or less. You can pay 5 to return this card and target land card from your graveyard to the battlefield. From what I've seen, that return from the graveyard to the battlefield ability does require you to have a land in the graveyard, but if you're playing a landfall deck that gets things into the graveyard, which is very easily done, there's that new bug creature that mills a card every time you play a land, lets you play an extra land. That one will go with this so fantastically well. Not to mention you could go back and play Blossoming Tortoise. I'm pretty sure it's still standard, and it mills cards, gets land out of your graveyard. And then there's also that elf that mills 3 when it enters, and then you can sacrifice it to bring all lands back from your graveyard. So this is going to be absolutely fantastic in landfall decks. You just got to find the right slot to put it in. Very good, though. This card's a great one. We've got Laszlo Enthusiastic Accuser, 3-drop 2/2, legendary creature human citizen. When Laszlo enters, suspect up to 1 target creature. When a creature you control with menace attacks, create a treasure token. So suspect basically gives menace. Yeah, a suspected creature has menace and can't block. So it's going to make one of your creatures, potentially, you could do it to an enemy's creature, but I wouldn't really suggest that unless you just really need it not to be able to block, to win or something. But being able to suspect one of your creatures means that it would no longer be able to block, but it would gain menace, and you'd be getting treasures for any time it attacks. So, not horrible, actually. We've got Louise Pompous Pillager. I actually think this is a pretty good one. It's a 2 and X cost, 2/1 with lifelink, and it enters with X/1/1 counters on it, and you deal damage to target opponent where X is the damage you deal. So this creature is good pretty much no matter when you get it. It's only going to be dealing additional damage the more mana you have to pay into it. It is a vampire and a villain, so it fits into vampire decks, it'll fit into villain decks. This card, in my opinion, is a really fantastic rare from this set, so I don't mind at all that I got one. You could use it just to kill an opponent outright if you have enough for X, but even if not, getting it out as a bigger creature is pretty fantastic as well. It also has lifelink, so any damage that it deals, including the X damage when it enters, should come back to you as life with lifelink, so really good there too. We got Detect Intrusion, which is a fantastic, fantastic card in this new set, in my opinion. It is a 2-drop instant, counter target instant spell, sorcery spell, or triggered ability, which is all great. You can already, most of what you're going to want to counter is going to be instants or sorceries. The fact that you can hit triggered abilities with this actually means that it's a pretty viable replacement for the Flash 3/2 Merfolk that counters abilities, because you also have added benefit from this, and it becomes a 1-drop if you have a creature you can target with the Enweb ability. So yeah, absolutely, truly ridiculously good. Probably going to see absolutely a ton of play. As you can see, it doesn't say new above it. I actually got one of these and a card style for this for free when I was buying my packs. So there's that. Yeah, really, really good card. Got a rare wild card, I don't mind that. We've got Yera and Oski, Weaver and Guide, 3-drop 3/3 with an Enweb for 1, which is pretty good. means this thing's a 3/3 for 1 mana that you could potentially get out on the battlefield. As it enters, look at an opponent's hand, then choose a card type other than creature. So you can choose artifact, enchantment, any of those things. Spells of the chosen type cost 1 more to cast. It's too bad that this can't hit creatures, but it means you can tax anything of your opponents that they control, and it's potentially a 1-drop creature if you get this out with the Enweb ability, so I think this thing's really good too. Imposter Syndrome is a 6-drop enchantment, which is pretty expensive. Whenever a non-token creature you control deals combat damage to a player, create a token that's a copy of it, except that it isn't legendary. So this is a way for you to potentially get additional legendary creatures out on the battlefield without the legendary rule killing them. Could go really crazy, but you'd have to have a way to get it out onto the battlefield. Is very doable, I would say. You could do it very easily with Kona or something along those lines. But if you're doing that already, you could just play Omniscience. So, I don't know how much this is going to see play, but it's a very interesting card, I will say that. Gobin Gene Splice Savant, which is Green Goblin, or should I say, Gobin's side is Norman Osborn, and then Fleam, Gobin's creation, which is Green Goblin. It is in Mardu colors, so blue on Gobin's side, and then black, red, and blue on the Fleam side. Gobin can't be blocked, is a 1/1 creature, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, it connives. Which means continually is going to get additional 1/1 counters on it as long as what you're discarding isn't land. Also, it acts as a discard outlet, something that enables you to discard cards, which is really good for the Mayhem decks, which this would go into. And then on the Fleam side, it has Flying. Menace is a 3/3 plus whatever 1/1 counters you would have gotten from Gobin. And then spells you cast from your graveyard cost 2 less to cast. So anything that has like flashback, anything that, so for example, all of your Mayhem cards are going to get discounted by 2, but you're also going to have the potential, say you put this in a deck that has green and you're using, or even, I mean, so there's so many options. There's lots of things that you could get from your graveyard to cast from this, especially in blue too. But yeah, so discounts a lot of things, very, very useful. And then each non-land card in your graveyard has Mayhem. The Mayhem cost is equal to its mana cost. So basically it gives any card in your deck the ability to be played from the graveyard at a discounted cost because it discounts them. So really fantastic card. This is one of the most popular cards in this set, and I'm super, super happy to see it. I am going to struggle with making Mardu Mayhem work, but I really do like it, and I think Rakdos and Mardu Mayhem are going to be two of my favorite types of decks to play with these new cards. Let's see what we got here. We've got Surus Spidersilk Inventor, which is a 2-drop 0/1. When Surus enters, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach, and then it also has the transform, or you can play it for the other side, which is a 4-drop 4 mana cost with green, white, and blue, with vigilance and reach, and each legendary spell you cast that's one or more colors has Enweb. So it means that they all would potentially get that Enweb cost in those colors. This is actually a really good card, but also kind of a card with a lot going on. This is obviously going to be really good in those spider hero decks, things like that. Yeah, I think this is probably going to see a lot of play, but it's going to be very specific for mostly spider decks, in my opinion. And then last, we have Egrix, the Bile Bulwark, is a 5-drop 4/4 legendary creature, spider symbiote hero. It has Death Touch and Lifelink, and whenever Egrix attacks until end of turn, you may look at the top card of your library. At any time, you may play cards from the top of your library. If you cast a spell this way, pay life equal to its mana value rather than pay its mana cost. The fact that you can pay life rather than mana is pretty good. As a 5-drop 4/4, it's not my favorite. I think a 5-drop 5/5 would be much more reasonable, or a 6/6. However, The fact that this gives you the opportunity to just play things off the top of your library, and it has lifelink and death touch, it's probably going to be pretty usable. If I'm not mistaken, this is the Gwenum card in the actual Spider-Man set. I don't know how good this is going to be. I really don't. Like, part of me feels like this one's kind of a trap. There is a card that came out with Edge of Eternities that lets you pull from the graveyard to the battlefield a 5-drop card, though, so maybe this goes well with that. I think it was also in black for like 3 mana or something like that, so very potentially usable in like a Reanimator deck for sure. Interesting. Interesting is definitely what I will say with that. Alright, let's get into the next 10 cards here. We're going to be going for a while. I'm going to stop reading any that we've already gone over, though, so that should help. Alright, back at the beginning here, we've got Tethic's Gift of Malice is a 5-drop 4/5 with Death Touch. Pay 3, exile this card from your graveyard, put 2/1/1 counters on target creature. It gains Death Touch until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery. So, if this card gets into your graveyard, which could be easily done with Self-Mill or something along those lines, then you get benefit from it that's a little bit cheaper than the mana cost. On its own, I think it's a little too expensive to be useful to be casting it. Maybe in some kind of a Reanimator form or something like that it could be usable, though. We've got Free Strider Aces, 3-drop 2/3 at the beginning of combat on your turn. Up to 1 target creature gains First Strike and Vigilance until end of turn. So it's a creature that has an added combat trick on it. Could definitely be usable in draft, but I don't know that it'll see a lot of standard play. We've got Steel Web Surveyor, is a 2-drop 2/1 with Reach, Spider Robot Scout, so it is a spider as well. When this creature enters, you may search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, then shuffle and put that card on top, so it can help you with mana fixing if you really need it. Probably a fantastic card for draft, probably even a usable card in standard if you're needing spiders, because a 2-drop 2/1 isn't the worst thing in the world, and it does have Reach, which is really nice too, so there's potential for this one. We've got Eccentric Archaeologist, or Arachnologist? Yeah, Arachnologist. 3-drop 2/3. Creature Human Advisor. You can add 1 mana of any color from tapping it, so it's a mana dork, which is pretty good, actually. Pay 3 and tap, put a 1/1 counter on target spider, activate only as a sorcery. Probably pretty good in draft. Not only can it mana fix for you, but it also allows you to put 1/1 counters on spiders you control. So if you're doing like a premier draft for Through the Omenpaths, this card's going to be probably a really good pick, actually. So I don't hate this for that specifically. I don't know that it'll see a lot of standard play, because you've got Llanowar Elves and things like that that are just way better. As well as Twitching Doll. That one's been really popular in spider-themed decks because it is a spider. So I don't think this will get play over those, but we've got Perfected Pastry, a 1-drop food that you can pay 1 white, sacrifice this artifact, put a 1/1 counter on up to 1 target creature, draw a card, activate only as a sorcery, or you can pay 2, tap it, and sacrifice it to gain 3 life and draw a card. So it acts as a normal food or as an ability to make your creature stronger instead of drawing a card. And it's only a 1-mana card, so I actually think this one's pretty good as far as foods go. Better than most other options, I would say, even. Except for the other 1-drop food that's available in Standard right now that lets you Surveil, I think, when it enters. That one's pretty good, too. We've got Scout the City, 2-drop sorcery, choose 1, look around, mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand and gain 3 life, or bring down, destroy target creature with flying. If you're doing some kind of a self-mill in Golgari, this could potentially be useful, especially if, for example, you're trying to play like an Insidious Roots deck. This could let you grab roots instead of being forced to grab like a creature or a land card like so many others do. So there's potential there for that. I would say this will probably be seen in a Roots deck, if it's seen at all. And then Mothwing Shroud, 3-drop enchantment. When this enchantment enters, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until this enchantment leaves battlefield. So this is a banishing whatever, banishing light or whatever you want to call it. There are better options. For one, there's Perilous Snare, which is an artifact, so it's harder to get rid of with things like Get Lost. And it has the added upside of having its speed-based ability where you can put 1/1 counters on things. Or there's even a 3-drop one that does the exact same thing as this, but it has ward. So there are better options than this, but this is interesting too. I wouldn't personally use this over any of the other options, though. Unstable Experiment is a 2-drop instant. Target player draws a card, then up to 1 target creature you control connives. Not the best in the world. I don't even think I would use this in a Mayhem deck just because it's 2 mana to do it, and there's better options. But that's, I think, what this is geared towards, trying to give you the opportunity to draw a card, and then draw a card, discard a card. So, there's potential. It does basically let you draw 2 cards and discard 1. Maybe this could see play in like a VV Cauldron deck or something like that right now, but I think everybody knows that VV's like right on the cusp of being banned, so... And I think personally that the Cauldron may see bans, maybe even alternatively to VV, but they kind of already called out VV, so it's hard to say. Anyway, this could fit in that kind of a deck that likes to draw and discard. I just don't think that it's the best option, potentially. We've got Favored Fighter, a 4-drop 4/4. When this creature enters, create a treasure token. This creature can't be blocked by more than 1 creature. It is a human warrior performer. So I mean, you play it, you get a treasure token. It's only a 4-drop 4/4, so it's not like overly expensive or anything like that. And it can only be blocked by a single creature, which is potentially helpful if your opponent's running some kind of a token deck or something along those lines, but I don't think it's great. Probably usable, especially in draft, but fantastic, I wouldn't say so. Arla Hadron Scalers, 4-drop 3/3 flying. Exile this card from your graveyard, put a 1/1 counter on target creature. It gains flying until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. Again, something that could potentially help in like a self-mill deck, and is in blue, so it could be that kind of Dimir self-mill deck, which we haven't seen for a while. But as a 4 cost, I don't think it's great. You get better value from it out of that graveyard ability, which makes it in a self-mill deck pretty viable. I don't know. I don't think it's great, but maybe if someone's trying to go that Dimir self-mill route with like a budget deck, this could be very usable. We have Hide in Mundanity. It's a 2-drop enchantment aura. Enchant creature. Enchanted creature is a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1. It has Defender and loses all other abilities. So this is like those sleep spell kind of thing. One of the things where you enchant your opponent's creature to turn it into something useless instead of the value that they would get from their actual creature. These are really annoying, and as a 2-drop, I don't think it's the best option that you have, but I actually hate to see that they're printing more of these. I hate them. They're not great. They're really not. Like, I guess it's potentially better than bouncing your opponent's creature, but not as good as like outright just getting rid of it. I don't know. Mixed feelings, especially if people have something that can destroy the enchantment, because then you just get your full creature value back. Anything else here? No. A lot of the same things. Vine-Woven Chariot 2-drop vehicle. It's a 3/1. When this vehicle enters, you may pay green. If you do, search your library for a basic land, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. As a 2-drop, this may be usable. I don't think the crew for 2 or the fact that it's only a 3/1 is great. You're still probably better off just using the one that like has power equal to however many lands you have, and then anytime it enters or attacks, you get a land and put it onto the battlefield tapped. That one's going to be better. But as a cheap alternative, this might, I mean, like, I could see you using this in a draft and not hating it or something like that. There's some potential for it. I just don't think it's as good as alternative options in Standard. Snatchback is a 2-drop instant with Kicker 2, so it could be potentially 4 cost. Return target non-land permanent to its owner's hand. If the spell was kicked, draw a card. I don't think that's great. You're better off just with the popular Kicker. Look at the top, however many cards you have land-wise, and take 1, or if it was kicked, take 2. That card's going to be way better than this. But I mean, it does give you the opportunity to get a creature off the board or re-trigger one of your own abilities potentially. So there's something you could do with it, I'm sure. I just don't particularly like it. This thing's new. Bane Marked Leonin is a 3-drop symbiote cat villain with Death Touch. When this creature enters, mill 2 cards. It's a 2/3. 2/3 for 2 or for 3 with Death Touch is probably usable, but not fantastic. It has self-mill potential though. So again, if you were trying to do Golgari or Dimir self-mill, it kind of fits into that as a way to mill yourself, as well as be a Death Touch creature. And it's a villain, so if you're playing villains, that works. I don't think cats really benefits from a black cat, but because I think there's only like 2 and 9 lives familiars, the other one that I can think of. But yeah, so probably not going to be super used. We've got Principled Referee is a 4-drop 2/3 human citizen. When this creature enters, choose 1, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, or return target creature card with mana value 2 or less from your graveyard to your hand. Graveyard to battlefield effects are better than hand effects, and this is a 4 mana cost. I guess if you really are doing something where you want to put 1/1 counters on other creatures you control, like for example Ouroboros, this could be good. But then you've also got the disadvantage of this also being a 4-cost card, so I don't think it really fits into those decks in my opinion. We've got Darvel, whose Web protects, 3-drop 3/3 within Web for 1. I think this one's pretty usable. Not only is it a spider-human hero, so it fits into that synergy, but it also has an in Web for 1, so a 1-drop 3/3 is pretty good, whereas a 3-drop 3/3 is pretty meh. So that's kind of where I stand with that, but this is probably a very usable card, in a spider deck at least. What do we got here? Robotics Mastery is a 5-drop enchantment aura with flash. Enchant creature. When this aura enters, create 2 1/1 colorless robot artifact creature tokens. An enchanted creature gets +2/+2. So this is something you would want to use to buff your own creature as well as give yourself a few more tokens, which isn't the worst. As a 5-drop, it's not great, but it does have flash at least. I probably won't see this being played much, but it's not the worst card you could use, especially in like a blue-white enchantment deck that maybe focuses on tokens, which I think already exists because of that Glimmer thing, the thing that creates glimmers when enchantments enter. So maybe this could go with that kind of a deck, I don't know. Secret Identity is a 1-drop instant blue, is a choose 1, conceal until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes a citizen with base power and toughness 1/1 and gains hexproof. It's weird. Reveal until end of turn. Target creature you control becomes a hero with base power and toughness 3/4 and gains flying and vigilance. So probably a better combat trick for attacking, but the fact that you make your creature become hexproof means that you could potentially save it with this, and this is a 1-mana card. So it could be really annoying in, like, I would personally play this in a deck that uses Eddie Merc, Crab, and Tolarian Terror, because it's a 1-drop instant, so it's really easy to slot in. You could even, I think Haughty Djinn cycled out, unfortunately, otherwise it'd be really good with that too. But yeah, so that's where I would use this card potentially. But in general, just the fact that it is a protection spell for 1 blue means that it's probably pretty playable, aside from the fact that it could also pump your creature for the kill when you're ready. We've got Sarn of the Silken Throne, 4-drop 3/4 with an end-draw web for 3. At the beginning of your end step, if 2 or more creatures enter the battlefield under your control this turn, you draw a card and gain 2 life. I don't particularly like this one. A 4-drop or even 3-drop within web for a 3/4 isn't fantastic. The gaining life and drawing a card's fine, but for that mana cost, I just don't think it's the best, because I couldn't see slotting it into a mono-white life gain deck or anything like that at the mana that it has. But it is a spider, it is a hero, so maybe it plays into that synergy in some way for someone. Supportive Parents, 3-drop human citizen 3/3, tap 2 untapped creatures you control, add 1 mana of any color. I don't really see this getting play again, because you just got much better options with like a Llanowar Elf or something like that. Maybe if you're wanting mana fixing for draft, this could be good there. That's probably all I would use it for, though, personally. We've got Kamanosu, the Watchful, is a 5-drop in Azorius colors. It's a 4/4 spider hero legendary artifact creature with vigilance. When it enters, put a 1/1 counter on target creature, which means it could target itself, and whenever a modified creature you control deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. So it's another 5-drop 4/4, kind of like that Gwenum card or whatever it was called in Through the Omenpaths, which I don't think is fantastic. It's probably usable, but not as good as like a 5/5 or a 6/6 for the same mana cost. It does let you put 1/1 counters on target creature, so it could enter as a 5/5, so maybe it's better in that way. And then you do get added benefit from modified creatures, so if you have this in some kind of a token deck, that's really helpful too. But it's an artifact, which means you could probably put it in some kind of an artifact deck, utilizing cards from Edge of Eternities. This might be pretty good. So, I don't know. There's potential for this one for sure. Hard for me to say how good it is until I see someone try and actually make a deck with it. We've got Terrell Entropic Hunger is a 4-drop 3/1 with Flying, Vigilance, and Lifelink, which is already really crazy. It is a Vampire Scientist villain, so goes with vampires, goes with villains. As a 3/1 for 4, those stats are pretty bad, but it does have Flying, Vigilance, and Lifelink, so at least it's got evasion. It has the ability to stay untapped and will gain you life. And then it has the ability, pay to exile this card from your graveyard, look at the top 3 cards of your library, put one of them into your hand, and the rest of the bottom library in any order. So it can help you basically draw a card of your choice among the top 3 in your library. So I don't know. I don't actually hate this one. I think it could be used, because in the graveyard it's useful. This lends, again, towards that kind of Dimir Self-Mill. If someone wanted to try making that, this could probably very easily go into it, because it's not terrible. We've got Alesos and Praz. Acrobatics is a 5-drop 4/4 with an Enweb for 3. A 3-drop 4/4, because of that Enweb ability, is actually pretty good. And then whenever you cast a creature spell, put a 1/1 counter on target creature you control, it gains flying until end of turn. So it has the ability of growing anyone on your board and giving them evasion. This one's actually way better than the other 5-drop 4/4s that we've seen, in my opinion. I could say this one almost definitely would see play, but that's mostly because of that Enweb ability. Also, it's a spider hero, so again, would fit into a spider deck really nicely. We've got Dreadfang Loathed by Fans is a 3-drop star 4, so Human Warrior Villain could fit into a villain deck. Has Vigilance. Dreadfang's power is equal to the greatest mana value among permanents you control, so guaranteed to be at least 3 because it sees itself, or would be more. And Ingrul could be much bigger because you can get some crazy sized mana values out of that. So interesting, could be used. I don't think it's as popular or as good as something in like a Reanimator deck would probably be with this, but it's not terrible. We've got Prison Break, a 5-drop return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with an additional 1/1 counter on it. You can Mayhem this for 4. I actually think this is pretty good. It's a Reanimator spell that is only a 4 mana cost if you get to discard it, and it makes whatever creature you get back from the graveyard come in with a 1/1 counter. So this is really good not only for a Mayhem deck, but in any kind of Reanimator deck on its own as well. We've got Kaminferric Havoc Duo, is a 2-drop 1/2 with Flying and Haste. It is a Goblin Human Villain. Whenever you discard a card, Kaminferric gets +2/+0 until end of turn. I don't think it's as good as alternative options you could probably find. Even just the Mako is like a 1-drop 1/1 that gets 1/1 anytime something is discarded, so it would be permanently bigger. But this having Flying is pretty good. The Haste is pretty irrelevant on it, though. So as a 2-drop with Flying, this and the ability to like get bigger at least once per turn with Mayhem effects, it's got some potential, especially in draft. This wouldn't be the worst pick for like a Rakdos Mayhem, but on its own I don't think it's very good. We've got Aggressive Symbiosis for 2 mana. Enchantment Aura. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, has Menace, and is a symbiote in addition to its other types. And then you may cast this card from your graveyard by discarding a card in addition to paying its other mana costs. Or its other costs. So yeah, this isn't bad, actually. I'm not a big fan of just outright using an aura to pump something, but the fact that this has the ability to allow you to discard a card means that it could go into Mayhem, buff your creature, give a creature Menace, so there could be some real value in this in a Mayhem deck. We've got Krobel Envoy of the Bog, which is a 5-drop 4/4. Seeing a lot of those. It is a spider human hero, so fits into that. Has menace, which isn't terrible. Whenever a creature you control attacks alone, put a 1/1 counter on it. Then surveil X, where X is the number of counters on that creature. Interesting with this one. I don't hate this one. Though it enters as a 4/4, it does have menace, which means there's some upside there, and it can grow your creatures and potentially allow you to fix the top of your library quite a bit, in fact, so I think this one's probably pretty usable. We've got Margot on the case, a 3-drop 1/1 with double strike. It is a human detective hero, and it cannot be blocked. Overall, not the worst. 3-drop for a 1/1's not great, but it does have double strike and can get and is unblockable, so if you have a way to put 1/1 counters on it, maybe for example with this, then yeah, you can get it bigger and hit with that double strike and be very, very annoying if not removed. See what we got here. We've got Quint's Insight, 2-drop. At the beginning of your first main phase, discard a card. If you do, draw a card whenever you play a land or cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand. This enchantment deals 1 damage to each opponent. One drawback of this card is that it says at the beginning of your first main phase, discard a card, meaning it's not a choice, you have to do it. But this is really, really good in Mayhem decks. And it's a 2-mana card, so you can get it out really early. It can give you a lot of value there, and I am really happy I got one of these, actually. I want a playset of this. I think I'm probably more likely to play it as like a 3 of than a 4 of, but it's a really, really good card for Mayhem decks. It's a good discard enabler while also getting you free damage for playing things from your graveyard. Wrench Speedway Saboteur, a 5-drop 2/3 human rogue villain, which looks pretty terrible on its own. It is a rogue, so it's what is it, an outlaw, but it's also a villain, so has that. But a 5-drop 2/3 seems pretty terrible. When Wrench enters, look at the top 9 cards of target opponent's library, exile 2 of them face down, then put the rest on the bottom of the library in a random order. You may play the exiled cards for as long as they remain exiled. Mana of any type can be used to cast those spells. So essentially, you get to look at the top 9 cards of your opponent's library, take 2 of them, and they become yours to cast and exile from that point on. That is the case even after this creature were to die, so if this creature's killed, the opponent doesn't get their cards back. So you get to pick 2 of your preferred picks out of the top of your 9 of your opponent's library. It has some serious upside, and I feel like you'd be playing this almost exclusively for that ability, rather than the 2/3 creature, which is just like a chump blocker at that point for you. At 5 mana cost, it is still really expensive, though. So I feel like there's some pros and cons for this card in a lot of ways that I'm not entirely sure if it'll see much play. Another one of those. Villainous Wrath, 5-drop sorcery. Target opponent loses life equal to the number of creatures they control, then destroy all creatures. I actually think this is a really good board wipe. I don't know if it's necessarily as good or better than Deadly Cover-Up, because being able to remove threats from your opponent's library is very nice, but say that you don't expect to have a lot of things in your graveyard, or what have you. The fact that this can pretty much kill your opponent when they are going big with creatures, like for example an artifact deck that's using Simulacrum Synthesizer, or even just a token deck in general that's trying to populate the board really heavily, I think this is a really interesting board wipe option that I like. I'm pretty happy to see it. Another Louise, which is good. Giant Craft Helm, 1-drop artifact equipment. Whenever a creature you control with mana value 5 or greater enters, you may attach this equipment to it. An equipped creature gets +4/+4 with an equip cost of 5. The equip cost of 5 is pretty steep, but the fact that a mana value 5 or greater creature entering automatically equips means that there's some usability there, and +4/+4 to a creature is crazy, actually. So I could probably see this actually being played. I don't know what in exactly, but someone could probably build, for example, like a Boros equipment deck that uses this. And I do have some misgivings about having creatures of 5 mana or greater in that kind of a deck, but there's probably going to be some use to this somewhere. We've got Kryn Undercity Dreamer, which is a human citizen hero. So on that side, it has, when it enters, put a 1/1 counter on each of up to 2 creatures, 2 target creatures. So you could target your own, you could target your opponents, though there's not a good reason to do so that I know of, other than like maybe you have something to kill a modified creature or something like that. I don't even know. It has the transform cost to turn it Kryn of the Spider Brood, which is a 6 cost 4/3 on its own with flying, or not with flying, with first strike and haste. And it has a pay to put a 1/1 counter on the Spider Brood. It gains hexproof and becomes colorless until end of turn. Whenever you attack, double the number of each kind of counter on each spider and legendary creature you control. So this would absolutely be a spider and or hero card. I don't think the 2-drop 1/2 side is bad, but the 6-drop side is a little weird, especially it being a 4/3 creature. But if you've had it out on the battlefield for a little bit at that point, or even if you put the 1/1 counters on this creature in particular before flipping it, then there's some value there. Not to mention, I know that I saw some usability with what is it? Plotting. You can plot these kinds of cards, and they count for plot because they are like a 2-drop or what have you, and then play them out for their larger mana value size, which is pretty interesting. Got another Louise, so I'm already almost to a playset of those. Arachnomania, 5-drop enchantment. The legend rule doesn't apply to spiders you control, which is pretty interesting. And whenever you cast a spell from anywhere other than your hand, you may copy it. If you do, you may choose new targets for this copy. If the copy is a permanent spell, it gains haste. Do this only once each turn. I think at 5 mana, this is really, really expensive and hard to get really a lot of value out of. But it is an interesting card for sure. The fact that the legend rule doesn't apply to spiders you control is actually pretty crazy because almost all of them are legendaries, right? But then you also get the benefit of copying spells, whether it be an instant or sorcery that you're using Mayhem with, something along those lines, or if you are getting a copy of a creature, because it does say permanent, it gets haste. So a lot of interesting value there. I just think the mana cost is what's going to be debilitating for this card, because 5 mana can sometimes be really hard to get to in the current meta. Then Mythic Rare Wild card's not the worst in the world. Let's go ahead and get to the next 10 packs. Alright, get on to the beginning. Alright, we got some more lands here. Nothing too interesting there. A couple of other cards we've already seen. This one looks new. Lurking Lizards is a 2-drop 1/3 lizard villain with trample. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. So this is a creature that has the potential to grow with 1/1 counters. It's green, so it could potentially go in an Ouroboros deck. It's only a 2 mana 1/3, which isn't bad actually, because 2 mana with 3 toughness is pretty decent. And in green, you could very easily get 4 mana or greater cards to start being played. So I don't actually hate this one. I think this is one of the more playable commons that we've seen. Alley Lurkers, Obscura Alley Lurkers, is a 3-drop 2/1. It is a human villain, and it has flash. When this creature attacks, it connives, which means it has the potential to get bigger. For 3 mana, I don't think you're going to be attacking with this creature very reliably. It'll be blocked very easily unless you're playing board wipes, which you could in blue. You could play Dimir and have plenty of board wipes, including the new one, so maybe, but yeah, I don't know. Not entirely sure how I feel about this one. I don't think it's super playable just because it's mana cost. Got another lizard there. Got another temple trap. This is an interesting one that I'm actually happy to see. We've got Skittering Kitten, 1-drop 1/1 spider cat hero. So it is a hero, it is a spider, and it's a cat. It has haste, and you can discard a card and sacrifice this creature to draw a card. So it has mayhem potential, it has spider synergy potential, and it is a 1/1 with haste. So as a 1-drop, it's not terrible either. So I think this is actually a really good common, not just for drafting, but something that'll probably see play in Standard. Shock got reprinted, so we've got that. What we got here? Ozor, Chronicler of the Collapse is a 5-drop 4/5 legendary creature, human scientist villain, so it has villain. As long as there are 8 or more cards in your graveyard, this creature has base power and toughness 8/8, and as long as you control another villain, it has hexproof. So I actually think this could be really good in a villain deck, especially if you maybe did like a Dimir self-mill villain deck. This could be really interesting. As a 5-mana card, it's pretty expensive, but you're getting a 5 mana for potentially having an 8/8 creature, which is much more interesting than just a 4/5. So actually not terrible, in my opinion. Got another Skittering Kitten, more lizards, more kittens. Okay, we've got Generous Betty Ray. Is a 3-drop 2/3 human mercenary hero. When it enters, put a 1/1 counter on another target creature so it can't target itself. When it attacks, target modified creature you control gains lifelink until end of turn. So I do see a lot of things that are synergizing with these modified creatures, which is going to be really, really good when put with Ouroboros. So interesting there. And I could see Selesnya being a really good way to go into modified creatures with Ouroboros, maybe even this lizard, and getting some value out of all of that. So interesting. Probably some decent decks that could be built with that if people try. Got Wisecrack. I actually have seen this card, and I'm a pretty big fan. It's a 3-drop instant. Target creature deals damage equal to its power to itself. If that creature is attacking, Wisecrack deals 2 damage to that creature's controller. So if you have something where your opponent's attacking with like a 5/5, 4/4, 3/3, doesn't matter, as long as its power is equal to its toughness, you can make it kill itself, and if it's attacking, it deals damage to the owner of the creature. So I actually really, really like this. I don't think it's going to see a lot of play, but I think this card's hilarious, and I love that it's called Wisecrack, and I just think it's a really cool card to begin with. Especially, too, this also matters if the opponent's creature has Death Touch, because no matter what its power is, it'll kill itself if it has Death Touch. So pretty cool card. We've got the Clutter Cluster. Is a 2-drop 2/3 spider hero with Enweb for 6. Sorry, it's really small text. When the Clutter Cluster enters, if they were cast using Enweb, you gain 3 life and create 2 2/1 green spider creature tokens with reach. So actually I don't hate this. It's a 2-drop 2/3, which is pretty decent on its own. The Enweb cost is extremely expensive, but if you get to do it, then you get a lot of extra value out of it. So not the worst. I think you'd be more often than not playing it as a 2-drop 2/3 though. We've got Ancestral Carvings, a 3-drop artifact. When this artifact enters, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal up to 2 creature cards from among them and put them into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order, and then pay 1 and tap this. Sacrifice this artifact to create a treasure token. I don't think this is very good. I mean, it does allow you to play it and get some creatures into your hand, potentially, but I just don't think it's enough value for a 3-drop. Unless you're trying to pair this with like Simulacrum Synthesizer in green for some reason. I don't even know. But yeah, I wouldn't use this, I don't think. We do have Kivney Orb Weaver. Is a 2-drop 2/1 spider human hero. So it is a spider as well. It has Menace, which is really good. When Kivney enters, you may discard a card. If you do, put a 1/1 counter on Kivney. So 2-drop 2/1 that if you discard a card, it's a 3/2. But it also has Mayhem for 1. So if you discard this card, then you can pay it for 1, discard another card, and potentially Mayhem that card. This is a really fantastic card, and that's why you're already seeing it without the first above it. I've already got a full playset of them because I know I really wanted this one. And I'm trying, like I said, I'm trying to get that vault progress up as quick as possible, so I tried to get a handful of the commons and uncommons from this set before opening packs. Got another Wisecrack. Outsmart the Amateur. We've got a 5-drop instant. Choose 1, draw 3 cards, or counter target spell and draw a card. For 5 mana, It's kind of expensive because it means you can't potentially counter for 3 like you could with 3 steps ahead. Otherwise, I would say it's pretty comparable to 3 steps ahead, which gives you the ability to counter a spell for 5 mana and draw, then discard. So, yeah, I don't think this is as good as 3 steps ahead, so I don't think it'll be used as much because it would have to be on par with that to really slot in. Hunter's Insight, 3-drop instant, choose target creature you control. Whenever that creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw that many cards. Honestly, this isn't that bad, even for a 3-drop, because this gives you the ability to refill your hand in green. I don't know that people are going to use it a lot, but it is something that I think green really needs with that ability to draw cards. And the fact that you can attack creature or planeswalker is pretty nice, because sometimes you just really need to hit that planeswalker but still want the effects. We've got Nil Vessel of Valgaboth, is a 3-drop 2/2 human villain. It is legendary, and when Nil enters, return target villain card from your graveyard to your hand. Villain spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. I think this would absolutely be a viable card to play in a villain deck, just because you get that added benefit of discounting your other villains and getting something back from your graveyard. I don't think a 3 mana cost for everything that it does is bad at all, so this one's really good if you're considering a villain deck. And then Archangler's Skyrod is a 2-drop equipment. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 and has reach, and whenever this creature attacks, tap target creature an opponent controls and an equip cost for 2. A 2 mana cost card with an equip cost of 2 isn't bad. It gives +1/+1 reach, which is pretty decent too, and gives you the ability to tap a creature when you attack. So I actually think this is a pretty decent equipment if you're going to be playing equipment. I don't know that it's better than alternative options, but it's not bad on its own. We got Tusk Unwisely Awoken, 2-drop 2/2 Spider Boar hero. When Tusk enters, create a food token. And then the crazy part that makes this card rare and actually decent. Other spiders, boars, bats, bears, birds, cats, dogs, frogs, jackals, lizards, mice, otters, rabbits, raccoons, rats, squirrels, turtles, and wolves you control get +1/+1. So if you're playing any kind of an animal deck, you can put this into it and buff them. So yeah, it'll be good in a spider deck. It could be good in a bat deck, a bird deck, a rat deck, like anything you want. This could go good in it if you're playing the colors. We've got Bellion the Parched, 2-drop 2/2. It is blue specific, which could be a little bit annoying. It is a elemental villain. When you cast a blue spell, if Bellion is a creature, he gets +1/+1 until end of turn. At the beginning of your end step, untap Bellion until your next turn. He becomes a land and gains tap, add 1 blue. So, on your turn, this is a 2/2 creature, and any blue spells that you play will give it +1/+1 until end of turn. On your opponent's turn, it becomes a land that is untapped and can be used for blue mana for the duration until it becomes your turn again. So it has evasion and not being able to be hit by sorceries unless they're able to target your land. I think this is a pretty interesting card. I don't know what you would do with this. Like, I don't know what kind of a deck this slots into. But in a blue deck of pretty much any kind, this could be really interesting. Rare wild card. We've got Urus the Storm Spinner, 2-drop 2/3 in Izzet colors. It is a spider human hero. It says you can't cast Urus the Storm Spinner during your first, second, or third turn of the game. So this is just like that Jace. It has double strike and vigilance. And at the beginning of your end step, if you've played a land or cast a spell this turn from anywhere other than your hand, Urus deals damage equal to his power to any target. I think this card's going to be playable. I think the fact that it can't come out on your first 3 turns is pretty bad, because it is a 2 mana cost. That's usually one of the values that would be really good for it. I think it's a really complicated card. That's one thing I'll say about it. I don't think it's going to see a lot of use just because of that. Maybe if like Izzet Spiders becomes popular, it'll become a staple of it, but I don't know. Pretty complex card for people playing Izzet colors that just want to play VV Cauldron. So I don't know about it. We've got Quonius Horizon Splicers, a 5-drop 4/4. Legendary creature, human scientist villain, so it is a villain. When it enters, exile up to one target non-land permanent, up to one target non-land permanent card from a graveyard. Okay, so one target non-land permanent and one target non-land permanent from a graveyard, and then when it dies, put him on the bottom of his owner's library. If you do, return the exiled cards to their owner's hand. So it could potentially be the way, a way for you to get a threat off of the board, or something of yours off the board that you want to re-trigger, and then something of yours from a graveyard that you want to return to your hand. Again, a really complicated card, and a 5-drop 4/4. I know a lot of people really liked this card. I have not seen it used yet in the pre-release, and I don't really like it too much myself. It has some exile synergy that could potentially work in like black-white Ketramos deck, but I just think it's a really strange card that's going to be awkward to play around, so I don't think it'll be used that much, personally. Reality Fulcrum is a 4-drop artifact. When this artifact enters, exile the top 2 cards of your library. Until the end of your next turn, you may play those cards, and you can tap it to add 1 mana, add 2 mana in any combination of colors. Spend this mana only to cast cards from exile. Still pretty usable. There are a lot of situations where you could want to play cards from exile other than just when this triggers, so it could fit in that kind of a deck. I don't think it's that fantastic on its own, though. We've got Makdi and Itla. Sky Snarers is a 2-drop in Azorius colors, so could be white or blue, could fit into a monocolored deck very easily, as well as an Azorius deck. It is a spider human hero, so it's a spider, it's a hero. It is a 2/2 creature with flying, and artifacts and creatures your opponent control enter tapped, which is extremely relevant. Being able to have your opponent's things enter tapped means that you basically completely get around haste. This is a really good card, and I could see it being used with Authority of the Councils to really shut down aggressive decks. So I think this one's actually a really good card. We've got Demira, Soul of a Spider, is a 2-drop in, Selesnya colors, green or white, so it could be in monocolored deck just as well as Selesnya. Is a 2-drop 2/2 creature, human performer. Whenever a spider you control enters, draw a card. This ability triggers only once each turn. I saw this used very many times in the spider decks in pre-release. It is a really good creature. I will say it isn't a spider itself, so it does get hurt in that way in a spider deck, but it's a nice way to draw additional cards in that deck, so it's pretty necessary, I think, for a lot of the usability you get out of it, especially for a cheap 2-cross 2/2 creature. We've got Naya, Sky Sail's Storyteller, is a 2-drop human performer hero, 2/1. When it enters, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card for as long as you control this creature. And then the alternative side of it is Naya, Fabled Sky Climber. It has flying, vigilance, haste, is a 4/4 for 5 mana. When you play a land from exile or cast a spell from exile, put a 1/1 counter on this creature. Remove 2 counters from Naya, exile the top card of your library. You may play that card this turn. I saw this being used in very many spider decks as well. A 2-drop 2/1 isn't terrible to begin with, especially since it has upside of having another creature or have another card that you get to where you can play it. Most of the time I only saw it for the Fabled Skies Climber side, but flying, vigilance, and haste is really nice for a 4/4 creature, so it's pretty usable in that regard too. We've got Exclusive Nightclub. This land enters tapped. When this land enters from a graveyard, you lose 2 life. It has Mayhem, so if you're able to discard this card, you can play it as a land for Mayhem. And then it can be used for Grixis colors, so you can tap it for red, black, or blue. Let's go ahead and get in the next 10 cards. Alright, got another one of these lands. What do we got here? Asli of the Thousand Moons, 5-drop 3/4 flying. When it enters, another target creature you control gains flying until end of turn. This could be potentially used in a draft, but I wouldn't see it being used anywhere otherwise personally, unless you're playing a budget deck of some kind. 5-drop 3/4 is just too expensive, but having flying and giving another creature flying can be really nice in a draft setting. We've got Leyline Weaver. I think this is really good, actually, and not only will see play, but is a really good synergistic card with spiders. But it is in Gruul colors, so you got red or green. Is a 2-mana cost 2/2 spider avatar, so it's a spider as well as an avatar, which matters with Cavern of Souls and if you're playing any of the overlords. It has a reach, which is really useful as well. It can be tapped for red or green mana, and whenever you cast a spider with mana value 4 or greater, you can untap this creature. So in the spider deck, it's actually really popular because you can tap it and keep using it to play more spells if they're expensive, which can be difficult when they're expensive, but, I mean, it has a lot of added value because of that. Let's see what else we've got here. Another reprinted Shock. Another Thousand Moons. Gallant Citizen in Selesnya, white or green. When this creature enters, draw a card. It is a 2-cost 1/1. You'd probably be better off just playing the cat, unless you're playing a human deck or something. But there's a cat that's a 2-drop 1/1 that enters and draws a card too, so it's just as good as this unless you're playing specifically green, I guess, because the cat's only a white and 1. Another Thousand Moons. Lots of cards we have already seen, which is good. Means this is getting a little quicker. We've got Scuttling Spider Coach. It's a 3-drop 3/3 vehicle with trample. When this vehicle attacks or blocks, it gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each spider you control. So I could actually see this vehicle being pretty good in a spider deck just because it could get so much bigger and it has trample. So this one's not the worst. This is a pretty usable vehicle, I would say. We've got Costume Closet, 2-drop artifact. This artifact enters with 2 1/1 counters on it. You can tap it to move a 1/1 counter from this artifact to target creature you control, activate only as a sorcery. And whenever a modified creature you control leaves the battlefield, put a 1/1 counter on this artifact. So, for free, essentially, once you've got the card out on the battlefield, you can make a creature a modified creature by moving a 1/1 counter over to it. And then, whenever any modified creature that you control dies, you get a 1/1 counter back onto this artifact. So it's actually pretty interesting. I think it could go very good in such as like a Selesnya token deck, something to where you're getting lots of creatures, something with Ouroboroi giving you lots of 1/1 counters, and this allows you to just kind of move over counters here or there and keep growing things bigger. For example, you could put a counter on Ouroboroi as soon as it comes out into play, which would be a very good use of this card. We've got Lavaborn Goblin. It's got Mayhem for 3, so is a 5-drop 5/4 with Mayhem for 3. So a 3-drop 5/4 is actually pretty good, and then it has haste on top of that. So I don't hate this one. As a 5-drop 5/4, it's almost okay, because at least you're getting as much power as you're paying for there. But as a 3-drop 5/4, it's pretty great, actually. So I don't hate this one at all. I kind of like this one. Firebrain Scheme, 1-drop sorcery, choose 1, exile the top 2 cards of your library, choose 1 of them. Until the end of your next turn, you may play that card. 1 or 2 target creatures each get +1/+0 and gain first strike until end of turn. So you do have to choose 1. I think the first choice is going to be the most popular one, a 1-drop, exile the top 2 and play them until the end of your next turn. It's going to be extremely useful for most people trying to consider using this card. So it'd be good in mono red, it'd be good in an Azet deck, so I definitely think this one will probably see play, especially until VV cycles out. We've got Oris Last of the Web Lords, 5-drop 3/5, legendary Spider Human Advisor. It has reach, and at the beginning of combat on your turn, target spider you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn, meaning it could turn itself into a 5/5. Or it could turn another one of your spiders into something else. Not terrible. I am not a big fan of these 5-drops, but this one's a little better than most as well, because at least you get some added power and toughness out of it, and reach. When I said it could turn itself into a 5/5, that's not even accurate. It would turn itself into a 5/7. No. Yeah. So, much better defense in that regard, too. So, you have a good chance if you had this out on the battlefield, it wouldn't instantly die by any means, like from attacking or blocking. So, this one's better than a lot of the others. We've got Sirena Bargain Spinner is a 4-drop in Azorius color, so white or blue. 3/2 Spider Human Hero. During your turn, Sirena Bargain Spinner has flying. And when Sirena Bargain Spinner enters, search your library for an aura or equipment card, reveal it and put it into your hand, then shuffle. Not the worst. Certainly has some usability from the fact that it lets you go and get an aura or equipment, because you could go get a Sheltered by Ghost. Or something else along those lines, which is pretty good. For 4 mana, 3/2 is pretty underwhelming, but it at least does get flying on your turn, so that helps it a bit. Another Spider Coach, another Lava Goblin. Okay, so we're over here to the rares again. Remarkable Readings. We've got a 4-drop Enchantment Aura. Enchant land. When this aura enters, create 3/1/1 green and white human citizen creature tokens. Enchanted has pay 1 and tap. Target creature gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature you control. This could be really good in a Selesnya deck with Ouroboros for getting extra counters on your Ouroboros. And it gives you some blockers, so I don't hate this one. It is a little bit expensive as a 4 cost and then having to pay 1 and tap the land, but it gives you some potential things to do with your land later in the game if you're not drawing into anything. Duskmourn's Claim. This is a really popular card, actually, in the pre-release so far, at least. It is a 3-drop enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, 2 target players each reveal the top card of their library. They each lose life equal to the mana value of the card revealed by the other player. Then they each put the card they revealed into their hand. So essentially, this one's a big gamble. You and your opponent both reveal cards, and you and your opponent both take damage for whatever card your opponent revealed. So if you reveal a room card, it could be a significant amount of damage to your opponent. Same for them, though, and it's a complete gamble because you don't know what your opponent's playing necessarily all the time. So having this card in your deck is a big Russian roulette, which people are loving because at least it's random and chaotic. But yeah, that's more or less how this card works. Got the Watcher of the Road, 4-drop 3/3 human villain. When the Watcher of the Road enters, create a 3/3 blue illusion villain creature token for each non-token villain you control. Exile those tokens when the Watcher of the Road leaves the battlefield. As it is, this isn't bad. This would be really good in a villain deck because it capitalizes on however many villains you have out on the battlefield to give you even more villain creatures, which is really nice. The House Grows Hungry. I'm actually really happy to see one of these. Is a 3-drop Saga enchantment. It has, for Chapter 1, destroy target creature. Chapter 2, each player discards a card, and each player who doesn't, or each player may discard a card, and for each player who doesn't, they lose 3 life. And Chapter 3, exile any number of target players' graveyards. I actually think this is probably one of the best removal cards in this set, because it is target removal for a creature, and then it also gives you Mayhem outlet, so you can discard a card on your next turn and play it with Mayhem, which is really nice. And then the final use of this card is exiling your opponent's graveyard, which may not always be relevant, but when it is, you'll be happy you have it. Then we got another Wrench. Exclusive Nightclub, another one of those for the Grixis land. Confessor's Bindings, 1-drop enchantment. At the beginning of your end step, you may tap 2 untapped creatures and or treasure you control. If you do, draw a card, otherwise sacrifice this enchantment. This one is not going to be great because you're not going to get a lot of value out of it. I don't even see, like, it could give you additional card draw, but only if you have enough things to keep making use of it. So I don't think this one's going to be used very frequently, or at least I don't know of a good use for it myself personally. Got another Laszlo. We've got another Egrix, the Bile Bulwark. And then a Demi of the Silk Shoots. This is a 2-drop 3/2 Spider Human Hero. So it's a spider, it's a hero. It has Flash, so it can be played at any time. And you pay 1, a enemy gains flying until end of turn, or you pay 1, sacrifice an enemy, creatures you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. So it's actually really nice, added protection for you and your creatures. You could potentially flash it in just to sacrifice it and give your creatures hexproof, or, you know, the added benefit of having this as being a potential flying attacker for you that is a spider. It's pretty nice. Let's go ahead and get into the next 10 packs. Alright, we got another one of the new lands. Let's see if we got anything that we haven't already seen here. We've got Opulent Valet, 3-drop 1/1 artifact creature construct with flying. When this creature enters, create a 1/1 green white citizen creature token. If you really need tokens, or just really wanted, like maybe you're playing a sacrifice deck in black or black-white, you want something to sacrifice to Sephiroth, I think a 3 cost is what makes this card not super great. Getting 2 creatures for it is fine, including especially having a creature with flying, but unless you're really getting some value out of those tokens, it's not necessarily the best. Let's see, anything else new here? We got this. Ulk's Mouth to Many Faces is a 6-drop 4/4, which is pretty expensive. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast spider spells and non-creature spells from the top of your library, and whenever you attack, you may mill a card. So a lot of utility from this. It is a 4/4 creature. It does let you play cards off the top of your library, which in blue is pretty fantastic, especially since it says it can be non-creature spells. So you could be playing counter spells off the top of your library. Things like that could be very disruptive for your opponent. So, I don't know. This could be played, but it's also extremely expensive, so I don't know how good it is. I don't think it would be great in the spider synergy specifically because of the expense in the blue, but, you know, I don't know. See, we've got Rouse the Swarm, 4-drop enchantment. When this enchantment enters, create a 2/1 green spider creature token with reach. You gain 1 life for each spider you control. Spiders you control get +1/+1 and can't be blocked by creatures with Defender. I don't think the can't be blocked by creatures with Defender is going to be very relevant all the time, maybe sometimes. Giving all spiders you control +1/+1 is pretty good, and gaining 1 life for each spider you control can be really nice in helping you get to the point where this 4-cost card is really relevant. So I don't know. This could see play. This could be useful in a spider deck. You'd have to kind of build around it, and I don't know if this is better than alternative options. Probably better than most alternative options that would gain you life, at least. We've got Angler's Shield, a 4-drop in Azorius colors, artifact equipment. When this equipment enters, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+2, and has whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card for each modified creature you control. So this goes more into those modified creature synergies, and it has an equip cost for 2. I think the mana cost of 4 is pretty high. The equip cost of 2 is pretty acceptable. So I personally, I don't think this is going to see a lot of play. Maybe not any play. We've got another Sandman, which is pretty good. Got another Nightclub, which I'm actually pretty happy about. Bracco Heartless Hunter. This one's actually really good. 3-dropping Golgari colors, so black-green. And then it is a Human Warrior Villain. It's a villain, so it goes good in those types of decks. It is a 4/3 creature for 3, which is really already pretty good. It has Trample, which is already good. And then whenever a creature an opponent controls with the greatest power among creatures that player controls dies, you draw a card and put a 1/1 counter on Bracco. So it has the potential to not only draw you cards, but also grow your creature. So very, very good villain card. If you're going to be playing villains, this is one I would highly recommend. We've got Kraza the Swarm is one. It's a 2-drop 2/1 spider human hero. So it's a hero, it's a spider. It has Riot, which Riot is a creature with Riot, enters the battlefield with your choice of a 1/1 counter or haste. And it also gives all of your other spider creatures Riot, meaning all of them will have that ability as they enter. And then also spells and abilities can't be countered, damage can't be prevented. So if you have this out on the field, you essentially literally have entirely uncounterable spells, which is fantastic. even better than Cavernous Souls as long as they can't kill this one creature. But it is a 2/1, so I mean, it's really good for a 2-drop. It's definitely totally worth playing, and it could enter as a 3/2 instead if you prefer that. But on its own, it's a really good early aggressive creature, not a super aggressive creature long term, though, because it's kind of small and you'll want to keep it for the ability not to have things be countered. Another Remarkable Readings. We've got another Reality Fulcrum. Another Detect Intrusion, which is good. Got another Surus Spider Silk Innovator. And a Mythic Wildcard. Alright, getting through these pretty quick now. We've got 6 more Omenpath packs, and then 5 more of the gold packs. See if we got anything else new through here. Nothing in the commons, it doesn't look like. Maybe in the uncommons, a couple of those. Reckless Razorkins, 3-drop 3/3 Human Rogue Villain. Has Trample. Whenever you cast a spell with mana value 4 or greater, you may exile the top card of your library. If you do, you may play that card until you exile another card with this creature. Okay. 3-drop 3/3 with Trample, pretty acceptable. And mana value 4 or greater, you may exile the top card of your library and play it until you do it again. Not the worst. I think it would be pretty hard to do this consistently. You could maybe do it in a mono red deck where you're using Tanic and get some interesting play there, especially when you can continue warping things in for 3. So some interesting synergy there. Let's go ahead and see. We've got Terrific Team Up. Is a 4-cost instant. This spell costs 2 less to cast. If you control a permanent with mana value 4 or greater, 1 or 2 target creatures you control each get +1/+0 until end of turn, and they each deal damage equal to their power to target creature an opponent controls. Since it isn't a fight spell and is a deal damage spell, it makes it a little bit better. And the fact that it can cost 2 less if you have something of 4 greater out on the battlefield in green, I think this is actually pretty good. It doesn't pump your creatures significantly, but like a 2-cost basically kill spell in green is pretty good. We've got Remorseless Coup, 3-drop instant. Put target creature on the bottom of its owner's library. You lose 2 life unless you control a villain. If you're playing a villain deck, this is actually pretty good. It's almost better than killing things in a lot of situations because it means that they can't get it back from their graveyard. Not to mention it doesn't return to their hand, it goes to the bottom of their library. It could get shuffled if that's the case, but on its own, I think this is actually a fairly decent removal card for if you're playing specifically a villain card deck. This could be a fun one. We got a few more rares here. We've got Stitcher's Wings, 3-drop equipment. When this equipment enters, if it was cast from your graveyard, attach it to target creature you control. Equipped creature gets +2/+0 and has flying and haste. And it has an equip cost for 2 with a mayhem cost of 2. So the fact that you can mayhem it, discard it, and put it onto the battlefield that way, and then it automatically attached to a creature you control is pretty nice. And an equip cost of 2 isn't that bad on its own either, so I think this is actually really good for a Mayhem deck. We've got Heroic Intervention, 2-drop instant. Permanents you control gain hexproof and indestructible until end of turn. This is obviously really good, especially because it targets more than just one creature. It makes all of your creatures gain hexproof and indestructible. And a lot of other abilities like this in this deck normally, or in this type of a deck, would normally require them to have power 4 or greater to get that hexproof and indestructible. So I think this is actually a really nice addition for green. Got another Sandman, so I think I have a full playset of those now, or at least 3 of, if not. We've got another Horizon Splicer. We've got a Trail of Teacups, 4-drop Saga Enchantment. Chapter 1, mill 5 cards. When you do, this saga deals damage equal to the greatest power among creature cards in your graveyard to target creature. So that's a pretty interesting way to do a removal spell. Target creature you control gets +2/+2 until end of turn on Chapter 2. And in Chapter 3, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. It's a little unfortunate that it's to your hand, but overall I think this is a pretty good card. Almost like the House Grows Hungry, it's a kind of like a kill spell on the first part, and then a buff spell on the second part. Third part is give or take, but it does potentially have the ability to get something really nice back into your hand that was in the graveyard that it had either milled or that died. Let's see here. We've got Draenith Reviver of the Hive. Is a 2-drop in Simic colors, so blue and green. 1/1 with Trample. It is a human scientist villain, so it's a villain synergistic card. And whenever you cast a creature spell with mana value equal to Draenith's power, copy that spell, except the copy isn't legendary, then put a 1/1 counter on Draenith. And the copy becomes a token. So this is a really popular card from the pre-release. A lot of people wanted to play it, and I don't think anyone actually did a particularly great job of it. Making sure you're consistently playing out things that have mana cost equal to the power of Draenith is kind of difficult, actually. It's not after you get past like the 1/1 and 2/2 stages, but after that it gets a lot easier. Anyway, let's see. We've got Parallel Lives, 4-drop enchantment. If an effect would create one or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many of those tokens instead. I actually think this is a really good card. This would go really good, especially in like a Selesnya tokens deck, pairing with either that new Warp Angel or Elspeth to really multiply your tokens significantly. This one could be really fun, actually. Verilix the Hive Skin. This is anti-venom. It is a card that you're probably going to be playing in mono white almost indefinitely. When Verilix enters, if it was cast, return target creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield. If damage would be dealt to Verilix, prevent that damage and put that many 1/1 counters on him instead. So this is going to be a really good card in like a white Reanimator deck, in something that goes up against mono red too. It is expensive at being a 5-drop with all white specific needed. But the fact that blocking with it or attacking with it just grows its power and toughness is actually really cool. I don't know how good this card's going to be, but I have seen some people at least trying to play around with it in the pre-release, and I think it's interesting. Alright, time to open up these gold packs and see what we get from them. Gonna go all the way to the beginning. Leyline of Transformation, nothing new. Dragonologist. Okay, this one's new. King of the Cold Blood Curse, 4-drop 5/5, which is good. Legendary creature, Lizard Villain, so it's a villain and a lizard. It's got Trample, and when King of Cold Blood Curse enters, up to one other target creature loses all abilities and becomes a green 4/4 lizard. Or green lizard creature with base power 4/4, base power toughness 4/4 till end, and it's not until end of turn. It permanently stays that. So if you've got a small creature, anything that is like a little token creature, like a 1/1 human citizen, anything like that from a lot of these other cards that we've seen, then it could permanently become a 4/4 lizard to go with your 5/5. It honestly is a really good card. Not only is it a 4-cost 5/5, which is really good on its own, but you're basically generating 9 power and toughness when you play this card, and it has Trample. So yeah, I really, really like this one. Got another one. Nothing new there. Got another Detect Intrusion, which is really good. Another Confessor's Bindings, which I could do without. Another Braco, which I do like. Jolly Balloon Man. We got a Desecrix, which I really did want, so I'm happy to see that. I'll go over it a little more in-depth than that, I guess. Is a 4-drop 4/3 Desecrix Gift of Servitude. It is a legendary creature symbiote villain. It has Trample. When it enters, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. It gains this creature, attacks each combat if able, and when this creature deals combat damage to a player, sacrifice it. And this creature has a mayhem cost of 1 black and 1 red, so 2 mana in Rakdos colors. This is one of your really good top-end Mayhem cards from this set, and so I'm really happy to get one of these. I would like more, in fact. Got to get through these other non-new cards here. We've got another Storm Spinner, another Demera. Nothing new there. Another Bellion. Phenomenon Recorder, hadn't seen one of these yet. So it's a 1-mana artifact. This artifact enters with 3 film counters on it. If you pay 2 and tap it, you remove a film counter from this artifact, copy target activated or triggered ability you control, and may choose new targets for the copy. So this can actually be a really fun card. I've seen some people playing around with it. The pay 2 and tap is kind of sucky, but the fact that it's a 1-cost enchantment's actually, or 1-cost artifact is actually really good. Because this could fit into a lot of different decks just based on that alone, including something with Ugin. Waltz of Rage, Sledge Class Siege Ship, another Bracco, which I'm very happy about. That's the last breeding pool I needed. We've got Gear Hulk, Multiversal Passage. This is the first one of those I've seen, which I do like. That's not new. Another Kryn. Not new. We got another Virulix. Got a Bahamut. And then we got a Cloud. So we got some really interesting ones here. I'm happy with the Multiversal Passage. I'm happy to see Desacrix come in. Got a couple of these King of Coldblood Curse, which I think are pretty good. So that's more or less my thoughts on this set so far. There are more cards that I didn't get to go over here, but Mayhem's definitely the mechanic that I'm most interested in here. You're going to be able to play villains, heroes, spiders, lots of things like that that are going to be new and interesting. I don't know how into those things people are going to get into right away. I think maybe it'll get a bit more interesting after Vivi gets banned, but right now people are going to keep playing what works. So hopefully people test out things and try some of these new cards, because they should be fun, and they'll be more fun the more people that use them. But that's it for this video. Thank you for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed this.